It all feels like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it? The kind of lifetime you look back on and wonder if it even happened to you, or if you just read it somewhere. A particularly dark novel where the protagonist was slow to catch on. My name is David. I'm 32, a freelance graphic designer, and for years, my life in Austin was, well, it was everything I thought I wanted. A cozy bungalow with a sprawling backyard perfect for evening BBQs, the scent of jasmine hanging heavy in the Texas air, the low hum of my iMac, my work a quiet passion. And Chloe, my wife, and Noah, my best friend. They were my world, my chosen family. I was the kind of guy who believed in deep trust, in the kind of unbreakable bonds you build over years, brick by emotional brick. Chloe, with her bright, intelligent eyes and her laugh that sounded like wind chimes, was the center of my universe. She was vibrant, an events planner with an infectious energy that drew people in. Noah, my college roommate turned best man, was the steady anchor, the one who could always make me laugh, who understood my sometimes too serious nature. We were a trio, a perfect, self-contained unit. We cooked together, went hiking on the Barton Creek Greenbelt, spent Sundays at Zilker Park, our lives woven so tightly I couldn't imagine a single thread unraveling. This life, this comfortable, predictable, beautiful life, was my masterpiece, my most intricate design. I was happy, truly, deeply happy. Or at least, I thought I was. The occasional tremor, the fleeting shadow that would dart across my peripheral vision, I always dismissed them as just that, shadows. Nothing substantial enough to dim the bright light of what I believed was my reality. Chloe and I met at a mutual friend's house party, a typical Austin night under string lights. She was wearing a dress the color of amethyst, and her smile just stuck with me. We talked for hours about art, about our dreams. Hers were grander, more global, mine more rooted, more about creating beauty in the everyday. She had this way of making you feel like the most interesting person in the room, her gaze unwavering, completely present. I fell fast, hard and completely. It felt like destiny, like finding the missing piece I never knew I was looking for. Our relationship was a whirlwind of late-night conversations, spontaneous road trips, and the kind of intoxicating intimacy that makes you believe in soulmates. When we got married 2 years later, it was a small affair in our backyard, surrounded by our closest friends. Noah was there, front and center. I'd known Noah since our freshman year at UT. He was the kind of friend who'd help you move at a moment's notice, who'd listen without judgment, who just got it. When Chloe and I started dating, he seamlessly integrated into our lives. He and Chloe developed their own easy rapport, a comfortable banter that I enjoyed watching. It felt good, seeing the two people I loved most in the world get along so well. They'd tease each other, share anecdotes from their work lives, even occasionally finish each other's sentences. I remember thinking, this is what a real family looks like. Not just blood, but chosen bonds, forged in laughter and shared experiences. Looking back, the red flags weren't really red at first. More like faint pink blurs in the periphery, easy to ignore. Little things. Chloe would sometimes have a private conversation with Noah, lowering her voice, and when I'd ask what they were talking about, she'd wave it off with a dismissive, "Oh, just work stuff, you know. Guy talk." Or she'd catch my eye and give me this quick, reassuring smile that felt a little too practiced. And Noah, he'd sometimes avoid my gaze after one of those hushed exchanges, just for a second. Nothing major. I'd shrug them off. My rational mind, so quick to construct intricate designs, was incredibly slow to assemble the pieces of this truth. I was in love, completely absorbed. Trust was paramount to me, and I trusted them both implicitly. Why would I ever question it? It felt like questioning the ground beneath my feet. So, I pushed the tiny doubts down, buried them under layers of affection and assumed loyalty. You're just overthinking it, David. They're your wife and your best friend. They love you. They're a team. We're a team. The shift, when it started, was slow, insidious, like a fog rolling in, imperceptibly at first, then suddenly you're lost in it. Chloe and Noah began to have more of these so-called work projects. They were both in event management, which made it easy to explain away the long hours, the late-night calls, the weekend meetings. But the details were always vague. If I asked, "Oh, what kind of event are you planning? What's the theme? Where is it?" I'd get a generic answer. A corporate retreat. A big conference. a client with a lot of demands. And a look, sometimes from Chloe, sometimes from both of them, that seemed to say, you wouldn't understand. I started to feel like a background character in my own life. Dinners, which used to be lively conversations between the three of us, turned into performances where I was the audience. Chloe and Noah would exchange inside jokes, references to things I wasn't privy to, their eyes sparkling with a shared secret. I'd try to interject, to understand, to be part of it, but their responses were often polite but distracted, almost as if I was interrupting their time. I'd watch them, my fork halfway to my mouth, a strange chill creeping up my spine despite the warmth of the Austin evening. My laugh felt forced, my contributions to the conversation increasingly desperate. The isolation was a physical ache. I'd be sitting on our patio, sipping a beer, and I'd hear their voices from the living room, hushed and intense. I'd tell myself, asterisk, they're just talking shop. Good friends, good colleagues. Asterisk, but the knot in my stomach tightened a little more each time. My sleep became fractured. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, Chloe not beside me, and find her in the spare room, laptop open, whispering into her phone. Oh, it's Noah. Just a last-minute detail for the project. She'd always sound a little breathless, a little too quick to explain. My logical mind, the one I relied on for my designs, would try to piece together the inconsistencies. Why the hushed tones? Why the spare room? Why the secrecy? But then her hand would reach for mine, her fingers tracing patterns on my palm, and she'd pull me back to bed, murmuring, I love you, baby. And I'd silence the doubts, pushing them down, believing her because the alternative was too terrifying to contemplate. My appetite dwindled. Food tasted like ash. I'd spend hours staring at my design projects, unable to focus. My creativity, usually a vibrant wellspring, felt blocked. My chest often felt tight, a constant pressure beneath my sternum. I kept telling myself I was stressed from work, from the pressure of freelancing. But deep down, I knew it was something else. It was the growing chasm between my reality and the one Chloe and Noah seemed to share, a chasm that was swallowing me whole. I tried to talk to Chloe about it, gently at first. I told her I felt a little left out, a little disconnected. She looked at me, her eyes wide and full of what I thought was concern. Oh, David, she'd said, taking my hands in hers. My sweet, sensitive David. You're imagining things. Noah and I just have a lot of work to do, and you're so focused on your designs. We don't mean to exclude you. You know you're my whole world. Her words were a balm, momentarily soothing the ache, but the sting of doubt always returned, sharper each time. I started to believe that maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was too sensitive, too demanding, too clingy. Maybe I needed to give them more space. I tried harder to be understanding, to be supportive, to be the laid-back, trusting husband she deserved. And in doing so, I became more invisible. The gaslighting intensified subtly. It wasn't always outright lies, but a twisting of my perceptions, a constant erosion of my trust in my own senses. There was this one evening, after they'd spent hours in the home office, door closed, their voices a low murmur behind it. I'd finally knocked, my heart thumping against my ribs. Chloe had opened the door, a forced smile on her face, Noah behind her, looking down at his phone. I asked, my voice a little shaky, is everything okay? You guys have been in here forever. She'd sighed, a theatrical exhale. David, we are trying to finalize details for a major client, a huge international project. It's high stakes. We need to focus. You're always so anxious about it. Why can't you just trust that we're working? Her words were a weapon. Anxious. Always so suspicious. They chipped away at my sanity. Noah just stood there, silently confirming her narrative with his presence, his averted eyes. I felt like I was losing my mind. My reality felt fluid, shifting beneath her carefully constructed lies. I started to question everything, even my own memories. Did I really hear that? Did I really see them exchange that look? Maybe I was just tired. Maybe I was imagining things. I retreated further into myself, a constant hum of anxiety buzzing in my ears. I'd sit on the couch, laptop in front of me, pretending to work, but really just listening, dissecting every muffled sound, every hushed laugh. It was torture, a slow, agonizing psychological bleed. Then came the business trip. A week-long conference in Miami, they said, critical for their careers. Chloe kissed me goodbye, her lips tasting vaguely of something I couldn't quite place, not her usual lipstick. Noah gave me a quick, almost awkward pat on the shoulder. See you next week, man. I watched their car pull out of the driveway, a strange sense of emptiness settling over the house. The silence was deafening, but also, paradoxically, a relief. For a few days, I didn't have to navigate their secret world. I could just be. I spent the first day trying to catch up on work, trying to reclaim my focus. But the house felt too quiet, too big. On the second day, I decided to do some spring cleaning, a desperate attempt to fill the void. I started with our shared office, which Chloe often used for her event planning. I was tidying up her desk, a task she usually deferred, when I noticed her laptop was still logged in, minimized on the desktop. I never touched her computer, respecting her privacy, but something compelled me to click. Maybe I was looking for a distraction. Maybe subconsciously I was looking for something. I told myself I was just going to close her open tabs, make sure everything was shut down properly. My fingers hovered over the touchpad. There was an open email draft, sitting in her outbox, unsent. The recipient was Noah. My breath hitched. No, David, don't. You'll regret it. But my fingers moved anyway, as if guided by an unseen force. I clicked. The words materialized on the screen, each one a sharp, brutal shard of glass piercing my chest. My eyes scanned the lines, and the world tilted. The air left my lungs in a ragged gasp. The subject line was just a series of emojis, two hearts, a palm tree, and a plane. The first line read, my dearest Noah, I can't stop thinking about our future. This Miami trip has only solidified everything. I felt a cold sweat break out on my skin, my vision blurring at the edges. I leaned closer to the screen. As if by sheer proximity, I could make the words change, twist into something less horrific. But they didn't. They remained, stark and damning. The thought of being with you, waking up to the ocean every day, building that life we've dreamt of, it's all I can focus on. You were right. We've waited long enough. This feels so real, so vibrant, compared to everything else. My stomach churned, a wave of nausea washing over me. I wanted to look away, to unsee it, but I couldn't. My eyes were glued to the screen, devouring every agonizing word. He's getting suspicious. He almost found my burner phone last week. We need to be careful. He's such an obstacle. I feel terrible, sometimes, for deceiving him. But then I remember this is our happiness we're fighting for. Our destiny. He deserves to find his own path, but he's just not meant for ours. Obstacle. The word echoed in my head, a hollow, mocking sound. Obstacle, not a husband, not a friend. An obstacle. My vision sharpened, focusing on every devastating detail. Their shared dreams of a life abroad, a future together. My existence reduced to a hindrance. The world went silent. The hum of the computer, the distant sounds of Austin, all faded. All I could hear was the frantic beating of my own heart, a drum solo of betrayal. My hands, trembling uncontrollably, reached for the mouse. I scrolled down. There were more paragraphs, filled with tender endearments, details of their shared hopes, their impatience to finally be together, to leave everything behind. Everything, which meant me. A strange, cold calm descended over me. It was the kind of calm that comes after the initial shock, when your brain short-circuits and all you can do is function on a primal level. I closed the email draft. I knew what I had to do. I found the document in her drafts folder, opened it again, and without a second thought, I clicked print. The printer whirred to life, a sound that usually annoyed me, but now felt like the soundtrack to my undoing. Each page that spat out was another nail in the coffin of my marriage, my friendship, my entire life as I knew it. When the last page slid into the tray, I carefully stacked them, folded them, and placed them on the coffee table in the living room, right in the center. A monument to their treachery. Then I waited. The days blurred into a silent agony. I ate nothing. I slept little. I just existed, watching the clock, watching the driveway, feeling the weight of the printed pages on the coffee table. Each tick of the second hand was a countdown to the end of everything. My mind replayed every suspicious glance, every hushed conversation, every dismissive wave of the hand. The pieces of the grotesque puzzle clicked into place with horrifying precision. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was just blind. When their car finally pulled into the driveway, a week later, I was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. The front door opened. I heard Chloe's cheerful voice, something about a successful trip, and Noah's low chuckle. They walked into the living room, their faces flushed with the Texas heat, probably with the thrill of being back, of their secret surviving another week. Chloe dropped her carry-on by the door, and Noah set his backpack down with a sigh. Then they saw it. The stack of printed pages on the coffee table. Chloe's brow furrowed in confusion first. "What's this, honey?" she asked, her voice still light, oblivious. She reached for the top page, her fingers brushing the crisp paper. Her eyes scanned the first few lines. The color drained from her face. Noah, standing just behind her, leaned forward, reading over her shoulder. His eyes widened, his jaw slackening. The silence that followed was suffocating. I didn't say a word. I just watched them, my gaze steady, unwavering, devoid of any emotion I still had left. Chloe's hands trembled as she clutched the pages. Her eyes darted from the email to me, then back to the email. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Noah stood frozen, his eyes fixed on the damning words, his face morphing from shock to guilt, then a kind of abject horror. Chloe finally found her voice, a strained whisper. "David, this isn't what it looks like. It's a draft. A creative writing exercise. Noah and I were just brainstorming a story idea." Her voice was weak, the lie too flimsy, too transparent. The master manipulator, for once, had no words. Her usual charm had evaporated, leaving behind only the grotesque face of a liar. I continued to stare, my eyes cold, my heart a frozen block in my chest. I didn't need to say anything. The email spoke for itself. My gaze held hers, forcing her to confront the absolute truth of her betrayal. Her words died in her throat. She crumpled the pages slightly, then let them fall from her hands, as if they were poison. Noah, who had been silent throughout, suddenly turned on his heel. He didn't say a word, didn't look at me again. He just walked out of the house, the door clicking shut behind him. The sound was surprisingly loud in the thick silence. That was it. The end of a 20-year friendship. Not with a bang, but with a coward's exit. Chloe stood there for another moment, tears welling in her eyes, a desperate plea for understanding, for forgiveness, for another chance to spin her web. But I had nothing left to give her. No anger, no tears, just an emptiness so profound it swallowed all other emotions. "Get out," I finally said, my voice flat, devoid of inflection. "Just get out." The days and weeks that followed were a blur of pain, numbness, and a grief so deep it felt like it had roots in the center of the earth. I moved into a hotel room, unable to bear the sight of the house, every corner filled with ghosts. I cried until there were no more tears, screamed into pillows until my throat was raw, and lay awake at night. The silence a constant reminder of the life I'd lost, the future that had been stolen. I felt like a hollowed-out shell, a design without a purpose, a structure without a foundation. But amidst the emotional collapse, something started to stir. A tiny ember, almost imperceptible at first. Anger. Not the hot, furious kind, but a cold, steady resolve. They had wanted me gone, wanted me to be an obstacle, to disappear. I would, but not in the way they imagined. Not broken, not defeated. I would disappear on my own terms, into a life they could never touch. The decision came to me in a quiet moment, staring out a hotel window at the unfamiliar Austin skyline. I would sell the house, every last brick of it, every memory it held, and I would buy a van, a travel van. I would convert it myself. I would build a new life, a nomadic one, free from the confines of betrayal and expectation. The idea was terrifying, exhilarating, and profoundly clear. It was my first step towards reclaiming myself. I called a realtor the next day. I started researching van conversions, watching YouTube videos, immersing myself in a world that felt completely alien, yet utterly compelling. It was a tangible project, something I could control, something I could build with my own hands. And it felt like salvation. Selling the house was brutal. Every piece of furniture, every photo, every shared memento felt like a piece of my heart being ripped out. But with each item I packed away or gave away, a strange lightness began to emerge. It was a purging, a necessary amputation. I kept only what fit into a few boxes, things that held intrinsic meaning, not just nostalgic value. My old sketching journals, a worn leather-bound book of poetry, a couple of framed photos of my parents. Everything else, I shed. The act of letting go was painful, a constant stream of tears and memories, but it was also incredibly liberating. It was like peeling off layers of a skin that no longer fit. The van conversion became my obsession, my therapy. I bought a used Sprinter, a blank canvas. I learned about solar panels, insulation, plumbing, carpentry. My designers I found new purpose in optimizing space, in creating a functional, beautiful home on wheels. Every saw cut, every screw driven, every carefully measured piece of wood was an act of rebuilding, not just a van, but myself. It was slow, meticulous work, and it gave me something tangible to focus on when the waves of grief threatened to drown me again. Finally, the day came. The van was ready. My small collection of belongings was packed. I stood in front of the empty house one last time, the key heavy in my hand. I stared at the front door, at the porch where we'd shared so many laughs, at the jasmine vine still clinging to the trellis. No anger, just a profound sense of closure. I dropped the key in the mailbox and turned my back, getting into my new home, my new life. The first few weeks on the road were a mix of trepidation and exhilarating freedom. I drove north, towards the mountains, towards vast open spaces. The solitude was intense, sometimes overwhelming, but it was my solitude, not the imposed isolation I had experienced in my own home. I learned to navigate by instinct, to trust my own judgment, to revel in the quiet majesty of national parks. I'd wake up to the sun streaming through my custom-built windows, brew coffee, and design logos for remote clients from a picnic table overlooking a canyon. The pain didn't vanish overnight. There are still moments, especially when the light hits a certain way or a song plays, when a phantom ache returns. The scars are there, etched deep, but they no longer define me. They are a part of my story, a testament to what I survived, not a reminder of what I lost. I've found a profound sense of self-reliance out here. I manage my own schedule, cook my own meals, fix my own problems on the road. The obstacle, I realized, wasn't me, but the life I was trapped in, the illusion of security that kept me from truly seeing myself, truly living. Chloe and Noah, in their cruel betrayal, had unwittingly gifted me the greatest freedom I've ever known. They shattered my world, and in doing so, allowed me to build a universe of my own. I still design, still create, but now my canvas is the open road, the changing landscapes, the endless possibilities. Home isn't a place anymore. It's the feeling of my hands on the steering wheel, the hum of the tires on asphalt, the vast expanse of sky above me. It's the quiet strength I found within myself, the unwavering trust one now place in my own judgment. I am David, a lone designer on an endless journey, and for the first time in a very long time, I am truly, completely free.